What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of FitBizU. I'm your host, Jill Coleman. And today we're going to talk about two different types of content. So, if you have not listened to the episode that we posted a couple of weeks ago on the two Instagram hacks that are working well for opt ins right now, I would go ahead and listen to those. Actually, someone asked me a question. We have a course called Story U, and Story U is all about how to post on Instagram stories, which we'll talk about today. The utility of something like Instagram stories versus your main feed, reels, carousels, all these different types of content. And she asked, are talking head videos doing well still? Talking head videos, meaning on your stories, like sitting there sort of talking face to camera. It depends. It's not doing, quote, as well as it once did, because people are just don't have the attention span. What we actually start to notice that's working a little bit better is written content on stories, which we'll talk about today and like the utility of that. But this is just like an aside. And I wanted to bring this up because the nature of how people are consuming content is always changing. And the algorithms, of course, are always changing as well. And so, sometimes on this podcast, we'll share things that are working in real time. Sometimes we'll share more like conceptual things that are timeless. And so just kind of take everything with a grain of salt as you learn about everything when we talk about social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest, right? All of these different ways that you guys can connect with your clients. And the algorithms change, the way people consume changes, what the algorithm decides to push out to new followers always is changing. So I want to kind of go through what we call just three different types of content, and it's very simple. One is called top of funnel, one is called middle of funnel, and one is called bottom of funnel. Maybe you guys have heard these terms before, but I want to kind of define them here and kind of share why you need to be doing all three of these. Now, top of funnel is basically it is the content that you would use to attract new followers. So things that are potentially going to be pushed out in the algorithm to attract new people to your page. So top of funnel means these people do not know you, and we're using it to attract new people into your ecosystem. Now, this is great. And this is like, the classic example of top of funnel content is something that goes viral on your Explore tab or something that goes viral because it's highly shareable. And these things have utility because they help you grow your audience. And I think for a lot of us, especially maybe in the first couple of years of building our business, we probably want to do a lot more top of funnel content because we are trying to grow an audience. But the sort of the behind the scenes, or sort of like the potential downside of only using top of funnel content all the time, is that like over time, it's just like you're building, you're growing, but you're not actually creating relationships with the people who start following you. So we do start to see this as people's followings get much bigger, they sort of lose the connection to their audience. And this is why, like, actually Shantae always talks about this. She says, like, if you have a smaller audience, that's actually a benefit because you have the bandwidth and you have the ability to have and build relationships with those people. And the people who are your first adopters, your earliest adopters, your super fans, your friends, family, acquaintances, people who connect with you at the very beginning of your journey, chances are going to be your first clients. It is harder and harder to bring someone in from, I don't know, say your reel goes viral. They come and they start following you on social media, and getting them to purchase within a short amount of time is getting harder and harder. We kind of know because there are so many potential clients that people can work with, potential coaches people can work with, lots of saturation in the space, a lot of people saying the same thing, that it can take longer and longer, and people need to really see your content more. We used to kind of say that it takes like 7 to 10 touches, quote unquote touches, people seeing your content in order to invest with you. Now it's more like 15 to 20, 20 to 25, right? Where they have to have some kind of experience with you. Now, granted, there's always people who are just ready for transformation and they follow you and they purchase the very next thing you put out. But what we have noticed at JillFit, especially as our email list has grown quite a bit because we're using lots of paid traffic, is that the people who are coming out to our list don't have the relationship that I have with people who've been following for a longer period of time. Now, this makes sense, y'all. Remember, we always talk about being in the trust business. And so trust by nature takes time. So if we're constantly trying to put out top of funnel content, things, and we'll talk about this in a second, like highly shareable content that is like kind of being served to the algorithm, that kind of gets play with the algorithm, Explore tab, For You page, things like that. Again, it's not that it's bad, but there could potentially be a chance that you are missing connection with the people who do start following you. So, one of the benefits of having an account like mine that doesn't really grow a ton, it's grown pretty steadily over the last, I guess I started on Instagram in 2011. So, over the last 14 years, it has steadily grown, but we've never really gone viral. We have like here and there, but it's maybe I've gotten 1,000 followers, maybe a couple hundred followers. It was never like, oh, I'm just getting tens of thousands of followers. Because I have an older account and because I have an established account, oftentimes you will grow slower. But the benefit of having a slow growing account is that when I post a lot, my people see my content and we're able to connect and we're able to build relationships. So, top of funnel content is great. But again, it's usually going to be those things that are like either humor or meme type content or, reels that just have like these kind of fancy hooks to them. And it's not that this content is necessarily bad, but this content is it's kind of like, I don't want to say a gimmick, but a little bit. It's kind of like you have to kind of play to the algorithm gods and play the Instagram slot machine and try out different types of reels, different types of hooks. And of course, not everyone's going to hit, but those are the things that we're seeing most likely will land on the Explore tab so that people who are not following you can see it and potentially follow you. So even if you follow sort of like the algorithm, what they've talked about, the changing algorithm on something like Instagram, they're pretty transparent with like, hey, if you have a smaller account, if you are a smaller creator, we want to preferentially push your content out over larger accounts. That's great. I love it. Especially if you guys have less than 10,000 followers, it's a really great time to start publishing more top of funnel content. That's going to be reels. Number one content type that gets pushed out by the algorithm is reels, especially on Facebook. A lot of my clients are having a lot of success with reels on Facebook as well. My clients that are like 40 plus having a lot of success on Facebook using reels. This stuff is just much more likely to get pushed out by the algorithm. It definitely is preferentially pushed out, which is great. So what that means is that I would like you guys posting the majority of your content is going to be real. It's going to be some kind of video content, some kind of, it doesn't, if it's talking head, that's fine. It can be, just a B-roll reel where you're doing something else and you have some content over the top of it. And so your reels are going to be your main top of funnel content. The other stuff that actually I'm really not great at reels. That's one of the things that I just really do not do well. I'm not a huge like video person. I personally don't like watching videos. And so the idea of me like making a lot of video content, unless I have a videographer, I'm just not going to do it. But what I do like doing is I do like having more shareable content in quote cards. So a lot of like the tweets that I put out tend to get shared quite a bit. I've actually been doing something recently where I'm on Threads. Threads is kind of like Twitter. And I'm on Threads and I'm getting into the conversation and I'm saving a lot of the threads that I really love. And I do love Threads because they're short, they're pithy, they're straight to the point. I'm following some really amazing and smart people over there. And so I get these really fun little sound bites. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually going through and like sort of collecting these things over the course of a week or two. And I'm putting them on my feed and I'm just crediting the people who are saying them. And these are getting shared quite a bit. Maybe I'll slip in one or two of my own because you guys know I'm an original content creator. So every once in a while, I'll slip in one of my own threads. But for the most part, I'm just sharing really fun, little, interesting sound bites that I find interesting and then I'm curating them for my audience. So even if you're not doing original content, like you're not putting out original tweets, you can always put out original, what's it called? Like reposted stuff. So if you're on something like Twitter, I guess it's called X now. If you're on Threads, if you like content, just give credit. If you're just like, ooh, that's like perfect for, I want to share that. Don't be like, oh, I need to make my own version of it. If it's great, then don't change it. Just give credit. And what I'm finding is, and I think sometimes we can be a little scared of that. Like, what if then people are not going to see me as smart? It's like they are because you're the curator of the information. So when people comment on my carousels that have other people's quotes in them, people are like, these are so good. And I'm like, yeah, because I curated them because I find them interesting. And the people who are following me tend to have the same viewpoint as I do, right? We have similar values, we have similar personality traits. So, of course, if I go out and I find like 10, 15, 20 awesome little tweets or threads, and then I put them into a carousel, like you're also going to resonate with them because we're very similar. And then this stuff gets shared quite a bit. So if I have a carousel with like 20 things in it, that's 20 potential quote cards that can be shared into other people's stories. So I'm getting in front of other audiences. So that's why I do like little shareable content, quote cards, memes, reels. These things are considered more top of funnel because they get shared. And if they get shared more, then your content is going to automatically get in front of other audiences. And that gives you the opportunity to have potentially new followers. Top of funnel is great. It's great for growing your audience. It's not an exact science. So if you're like, I really am in a growth phase, then I want the majority of your content to be top of funnel content. Next type of content is called middle of funnel. Middle of funnel means this person is not new to your brand. They are already following you. They've been following you for a time and they already connect with you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So, middle of funnel content is content that nurtures people that are currently there. Now, most of my content, I would say most of my content is middle of funnel. I like my people. I like staying on brand. I like kind of sharing my values. And I know that they already connect with the people who are already following. So the things that do well from middle of funnel are going to help you nurture the relationships with the people on who are following you. So top of funnel content brings in new people. Middle of funnel content will nurture those relationships and deepen the trust with those new followers. So you can't just have all top of funnel content because then you're missing out on the relationship building and the nurturing and the trust building that needs to happen with people to get them to the point of sale. So the things that do best for middle of funnel are going to be anything that is savable. Remember, if someone is saving something of yours, that's them basically saying, I find this valuable. I want to come back to this. So carousels get saved quite a bit because they're like chock full of information. They're chock full of knowledge or expertise or value, and people want to come back to them. So carousels historically do fairly well, especially things like recipes, workouts, tools, meal prep tips, stuff like that. Stuff where people can do something. There's something for them to do. There's some kind of solution here. Now, something where it's like, here's how to, I don't know, here's how to effortlessly get 30 grams of protein to every single meal. And it's a carousel post and it has meal ideas, like that's going to get saved a ton because people want to come back to that for ideas. It's probably not going to get shared, right? Because who's going to share that? Here, hey guys, check out these recipes. Like most things like that are not going to get shared. So solutions posts are great for nurturing those relationships and getting people to see you as what we call a trust agent. A trust agent is someone who goes, I know Jill is an online business expert. Let me go and see what she thinks about this. People see you as an expert in some sort of thing and they see you as the person to trust. So, for example, I got this a lot, especially when I was doing fitness content, nutrition content. I was getting a lot of people being like, hey, Jill, this new study just came out saying that eggs are bad for you. What do you think? That tells me that people want to know what my point of view is. So they see you as someone who they already trust. And the way that you're going to build that trust is from middle of funnel content, providing a ton of value. So savable content will be things that are chock full of information, things that have high utility. I would say, I think our number one most saved post ever it was like 10 ways to make $2,000 this week. It was 10 ways to make $2,000 this week. And it was just ideas, right? It was just like, here's some ideas. And that got saved quite a bit because it just gave people something to come back to and be like, oh, let me try that. Let me try that. Let me try that. And that was highly saved. And it gave people that little bit of expertise or authority from my page. Other things that also build trust or that nurture your people are going to be stories. So, I mean, stories on your main feed, like if you tell them through a carousel of some kind, this is what we're seeing being popular right now is like telling a story through a carousel. So, people are actually like swiping through and sort of reading a story. It's building connection. People are going, oh my God, that happened to me too. Oh, that's so interesting. I've had the same experience, right? There's a lot of connection in stories, right? If I talk about my dad, someone reading it automatically starts to think about their dad. So the story itself becomes a lot more universal. Storytelling is the oldest way to share content in the world, if you think about it from that perspective. And so carousels that share a story are great. And then also stories on Instagram or Facebook. So when you guys post to your stories feed, Instagram and Facebook do not push that out to anyone not following you, right? Your main feed post, they would, but your stories never get posted. So if someone sees your story who is not following you, chances are either someone shared it with them or they just went to your profile randomly and watched your story. Instagram, Facebook do not push your stories out to people not following you, which tells you that the people who are seeing your stories are your audience. They are your ecosystem. They're your OGs. They're your earliest adopters, right? They're your hell yes followers because they like you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be following you. And so this is a great place when you share in your stories to be a little more vulnerable in your stories, to be a little bit more transparent in your stories, to maybe be a little more personal in your actual stories, because this is where you are nurturing those relationships. And people who maybe followed you because they saw a funny meme or they connected with a quote card are now following you and going, who is this person? Like, what's their story? What's their origin story? What's their background? What's their deal? And it's an opportunity for you to tell in your stories a little bit about you, about what you do, things like that. This is why things like intro posts and stuff like that do so well, because I don't know about you guys, but I'll follow someone. I'm like, I only know their latest work. I only know the thing that I followed them for. I don't know their origin story. I don't know their background. I don't know why they're an expert. I don't know what their history is. And so when people do like intro posts, those are great middle of funnel pieces of content. Here's an intro post. Maybe once every quarter, you guys post an intro post. And then the other thing that actually builds trust and what is middle of funnel is going to be going live. So I know that we're not a huge fan of that. And I don't think that lives get a ton of play, to be honest. But I like lives because it gives people an insight into how you talk, how you animate. That's also like the power of a podcast. You guys are sitting here listening right now and you hear my voice, the intonation in my voice, the pace of my voice in your ear. You're getting a sense of my personality. And it's the same thing when we go live on Instagram or live on Facebook. We get to teach stuff. We get to be in this like sort of teacher role. People literally see you like on a screen giving some advice or giving some knowledge or education. So there's an immediate authority there. There's an immediate like authority trigger or competency trigger, but also they get to see so much more than your words. They get to see so much more than just, a video of you or B-reel or a still image, and they get to see how you animate, and you can also answer questions and things like that. Now, I don't think that people are hanging out on lives as much as they used to. People are just busy, the attention span is lower. But I do think that doing a live has a lot of utility because then you can put it on your main feed. And I do see people watching lives on once it's published to your main feed. So I think it's always a great idea, even if you just go live once a month to start. Just like don't be so caught up in no one's watching live. Again, I like even I go live. I maybe have a dozen or two people on there. Like it's not a ton of people because again, no one's sitting there staring at a screen. But later on, I get a lot of rewatches. I get a lot of I get a lot of plays later and views later. So you'll just post it to your main feed. And it's a great way for people to understand you and how you animate and your personality and things like that. Okay. So we have top of funnel content, which is content that's going to help you grow. We have middle of funnel content, which nurtures the relationships of the people who you already have access to and already connected with. And then we have bottom of funnel. Bottom of funnel content is very simple. It is your sales content. Now this person has started following you, top of funnel. Now they've been nurtured, they've been following for a time, and now you're going to put sales content in front of them. Bottom of funnel is sales content. And sales content is just like, I'm promoting something, or the card is open, or I'm opening my coaching for the next couple days, or I have a couple spots open for coaching, or I'm launching this thing on Monday. It is straight up sales content. So if you think about it, we are always moving people from top of funnel to middle of funnel to bottom of funnel. That's the goal, is to get them from someone who is a cold lead, a cold follower, to a warm follower, a nurtured follower, to eventually becoming a customer. And y'all, the most frustrating thing is we are not in charge of how fast that goes. Sometimes people come in, they follow you, they immediately connect with you, and they buy within a week or two. Most people will not move that quickly. They need to follow you for a time. They need to learn more about you. They need to nurture that relationship. They need to decide what they think. And then at some point, they may decide to invest with you. So your only job is to create and post all three of these types of content so that we're constantly moving people through top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. And so if you wanted maybe a suggested ratio, I would probably do, if you have a following under 10,000, if you're under 10,000 followers on social media, I would focus mostly on top of funnel. Top of funnel content being things like reels, quote cards, little sort of pithy, truth bomby type stuff, memes. All of that kind of content will help you grow because it's going to be pushed out into the algorithm more likely. And so I would focus on mostly that. So, for example, let's say you're posting 5 times a week. I would say at least 4 of your posts are probably going to be top of funnel posts. Okay. If you have more than 10,000 followers and you're focused not so much on growing, sure, if you want to throw in a top of funnel once or twice a week, great. This is kind of my strategy is I do maybe 1 or 2 reels per week or carousels that I think may get shared, and the rest is nurture content. I tell stories. I share anecdotes. I share like highly valuable carousels with a bunch of solutions in them. I am getting people on board. I share a lot of opinions. And opinions are not necessarily going to be shared. Like they're not going to necessarily be like physically shared out to the people won't necessarily share them, but it also is a way to just remind people of what your vibe is. Hey, you guys. So I share a lot of tweets. I don't use Twitter anymore, but I use Threads. Same. And when I take a screenshot of a thread of mine and then I put it as an Instagram post, it's usually some kind of opinion. This is how I feel about this. It is a reflection of my values so that people can decide, do they want to stay and hang out because they agree, or do they want to leave? And so middle of funnel content is also what we call repel and attract and repel content. Attract content is like, hey, this is who I am. Decide if in repel content, same thing. Here's who I am. Here's what I stand for. Here are my values. Here's what you can expect from me. And then someone can decide to stay. And maybe if they stay, they start really connecting with you. And if they leave, they're like, oh, Jill's not for me. And that's cool too. So it's a perfect filtering system. So middle of funnel, if you have over 10,000, you're probably mostly middle of funnel, maybe 1 or 2 top of funnels per week, like a reel or a quote card or a meme. The rest is middle of funnel, which is going to be nurturing. It's going to be your stories, your savable content, maybe going live once a quarter, once a month, and then Instagram stories, actual stories, right? And then bottom of funnel. Now, if you are someone who is just looking to build your one-on-one coaching business and you're like, okay, I'm on social media, I'm posting regularly, would love to close 2 to 5 new clients per month. I recommend focusing on um, bottom of funnel content at least once a month in a very like sort of hard push. So the thing I recommend to my FBA students is a 7-day push, what we call the one-on-one niche launch. So for example, maybe the first 3 weeks of the month, you're doing top of funnel content, middle funnel content. And then the last week of the month is maybe a hard push for coaching. So that's going to be more bottom of funnel. It's going to be talking about your coaching. It's going to be talking about who you work with, who you don't work with, who you're looking to, what kind of outcomes people can expect when they work. Maybe you're sharing case studies, success stories, client testimonials. You're eliciting DMs. You're getting people on the phone, right? You're asking people if they want to jump on the phone with you. You're telling people what your availability is. And you're focused on selling in that last week of the month. And then after that's over, maybe you sign a couple clients and then you can go back to the beginning of the next month. The first 3 weeks are going to be top of funnel, middle of funnel content. And so you can rinse and repeat that strategy. Of course, if you are instead doing a launch, then your launch will be your bottle of funnel content. So I'm getting ready personally to go into a launch for a brand new program called the Built Blueprint. It's a new fitness program. And I'm going to be selling that. I'm going to be at some point, card is going to be open. I'm going to be on social media talking about the offer and telling people to go to the link in my bio to enroll or to drop the word below because we have a ManyChat automation set up. And so I do think that if you are newer and you have a one-on-one coaching that you're trying to get up and running, you want to have a cadence. So you can use the cadence I just shared, which is 3 weeks of value add, 1 week of selling, 3 weeks of value add, 1 week of selling, or you can pick a couple of days that you're going to sell per week. So you're like, hey, maybe every Friday I share some wins for my clients. And I tell people that I have a spot or 2 open for my coaching. And I'm a big fan of using cohorts. So for example, I might say, hey, you guys, I have 2 spots available for an April 15th start. And I like it because even though technically your coaching is open all the time, I do like that it feels like there's kind of a built-in deadline. I have 2 spots for an April 15th start. I have 3 spots for a May 1st start. I have 5 spots for summer coaching for a summer session coaching, right? So it gives people a little bit of like, okay, do I want to be in this cohort or do I want to wait a little bit? But it gives them some kind of deadline by which they have to make a decision. Now, the decision can be no, but I like doing something like that. So if you don't want to do a hard sell once a month, then just pick a day of the week that you talk about your coaching. And maybe it's like, hey, I don't know, like to me, like even if it's just like Sunday, Mondays, right? A lot of times for us, Sunday is one of our biggest buying days. So maybe it's Sunday, Monday. And it's like, okay, Sunday, Monday, you talk about your coaching, you talk about your clients, maybe do some case studies, you share some screenshots of clients, and then you have a call to action for people to message you if they would like to work with you. And you say, hey, you guys, I have a couple slots open. I have one spot this week. If you want to start this week, let me know, hit me up, DM me, drop the word, whatever it is. If you want to have a cadence, either it's once a month, like a 7-day push, or it's just weekly. Now, the worst case, all you're doing is you're building familiarity around your coaching. So even if you don't get any bites, you're still getting people to see that you have a coaching offer, that you do coach, and the kind of person that you do work with and the kind of outcomes that they can expect, right? You're talking about, hey, when we work together, this is the goal, this is my promise, this is the guarantee, this is the outcome you can expect, this is the results my clients get. So at the very least, you're building familiarity around your coaching so that when someone is ready, they're going to come to you. Okay. Hopefully this makes sense. I think a lot of times there seems to be a lot of mystery around social media. Like it's so hard to grow. And it's like, it can be, but if you have a plan in place, okay, how much top of funnel content am I doing? Oh gosh, I'm not doing any top of funnel content. So why would I ever get in front of other people? Why would I get in front of other accounts? I'm doing all middle of funnel content. And again, this is something that I believe I do quite a bit of, which is why I don't really grow all that much. Now, I wouldn't mind growing, but I tend to not do as many reels. I tend to do a little bit more sort of opinions, stories, things like that. And so I have a really strong, like when I post, like I do get a lot of engagement on my posts because I have a strong relationship with my audience because I've had this audience for a long time, and two, it's not huge. So I have a lot more ability for connection and nurturing at 1,000 people than I would at a million, obviously, right? There's just no way I could even have that level of connection. And for people, I've seen people do it well where they can still keep that connection as their audience grows. But I think it is a lot harder because, again, a lot of those people maybe just started following in the last month or the last couple months. And so, how much of a relationship can you build with them? So, I feel for me, I feel very fortunate because while I don't go viral all the time and I don't grow by leaps and bounds, I have a really strong audience and I have a strong connection to that audience because of all the things we're talking about. A lot of middle of funnel content, lots of nurturing content, lots of open, honest, vulnerable shares, right? So it's up to you what you want to do. I will say if you have less than 10,000 followers, I probably would focus mostly on top of funnel until you get to the point. Now, I don't think you ever stop wanting to grow, no matter how big of an audience you have. But you have to remember that if your goal is sales, then you cannot skip the middle of funnel, right? You just can't. You can't go right from top of funnel to buy something from me. You have to nurture and you need to spend time building connection because those are the people who you build those connections with who end up being your customers. So it's not just about numbers, it's about the depth of relationship of those numbers. So we need to find that happy medium. Good? All right. Hopefully this makes sense. I wanted to share that because sometimes people throw these words around, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. And I wanted to give you an idea of what that means and what it means for you in terms of growing your social media and using your social media to sell. Good? All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thank you for being here. And I will see you on the next episode. Have a good one.